Good evening, everyone. Am I audible? Hello, good evening. How many of you are there? Can you respond in the chat box? We are waiting for the responses. How many of you are there? Okay, hi, good evening. So in the last marathon session, we have started the production economics and farm management, and we have completed almost all the basic concepts in the production economics. And we have studied the basic concepts, the factor product relationship, factor relationship, product relationship. Then we have studied the laws of returns, and it was actually a lengthy class because like for the entire relations, like you have a basic idea right now, I guess. So right now today we will be dealing with the farm management, especially the farm management principles and some of the basic concepts. And by today's marathon, the conceptual sessions will be completed. So I guess this is actually helping you. So you like even in the previous videos also, just go through it once, and if it's really helpful, support us. Just give the what you feel about the videos and all. That will be actually an encouragement as well as a good fortune to the platform too. And we can continue this for the upcoming batches for your juniors also. So today we will be dealing with the farm management principles. So directly moving on, I am Ajay Antosoy, your social science mentor. I'll be dealing with the subject of agricultural economics, and for the past 3 years, I am being a teacher of Agri Addict for the subject of agricultural economics. Currently, I am pursuing my PhD in the same subject. In the year of 2021, I have secured all India rank 27 for the ICAR AIEEA PG examination. and in the year of 2023 I have secured all India rank 4 in the ICAR SRF examination, and I am an ASRB net holder also. So here is where actually we have stopped last day. So in every aspects in the factor product relationship, factor factor relationship, and product product relationship, we have answered the we have found out the answer for the questions like how much to produce, and how to produce, as well as what to produce respectively. And finally, everywhere we dealt with a single input to the single output, or maybe a combination of input to a desired output, or maybe a fixed input level with respect to a combination of output level. But in the final level, in the long run, we have checked a long run production function, that is none other than our returns to scale. We try to increase all the variables, or all the variable resources that we already have. We try to increase it all together, and we have seen how actually the output is changing, which is none other than your returns to scale. Okay, so if somebody asks you what is actually the mathematical expression of the production function in the long run, so you will be giving an answer like this: y is equal to a function of x1, x2, x3, x4, etc. Why? Because there is only variable resources. If there were some fixed resources, we would be keeping a bar here and separating the fixed resources there, right? So if coexistence of variable resource as well as fixed resources are there, we can say that it is a short run production function. When we are dealing with the factor factor relationship, factor product relationship, or product product relationship, we are dealing with short run production functions. Returns to scale is actually a long run concept, so therefore your production function would be looking like this, where actually the resources will be, every resources will be variable, and there will be no fixed resources left. So therefore all the variable resources will be having an impact on the final output. So this is actually the basic idea of returns to scale, just for the continuity of the last class. So today we will be dealing with some of the farm management principles. So as we have seen in the previous class, farm management is actually a basic component of the agricultural production economics itself. Production economics, we have considered it as an inter-farm study. It's actually general in every farm, right? So if you are checking about the TPP production function, you can see it in the agricultural sector, you can see it in the industrial sector, you can even see it in the manufacturing sector. The general trend will be the same, but the setting time period of the decline of MPP becomes equal to 0, or it is becoming negative, will be actually of the different time period, but the general trend will be the same, right? So that's why actually it is called as an inter farm study. But when we are coming to the farm management, right now we are trying to take all the theoretical aspects of the production function and apply to a single piece of land. That is none other than your farm management. That's why it is known as intra-farm study. So before proceeding, we should understand how actually the farm management decisions are. So farm management decisions are classified into three. First one is organizational management, second one is administrative management, and third one is marketing management decisions. These are simply the decisions that we are taking at different time periods when we are managing the farm. So right now, when we are going through this chapter, you should be thinking in a way like you are a farmer entrepreneur. Okay, you are a farm manager, so you have a piece of land, and how you are going to use the farm management principles, or or the theories of the agricultural production economics into your farm. Okay, so right now we are classifying whatever decisions that we are taking in our farm into three, classifying into three. First is organizational, second one is administrative, and third one is marketing management. So first one is organizational management decision. Organizational management decision is further divided into operational management decision as well as strategic management decision. Basically, the basic difference between operational management and strategic management decision is none other than operational management is concerned with almost day-to-day activities. It is actually short-lived decisions. Okay, recurrently you will be taking it, and the effect of the decision will be very much easy. It's like how we can. It's like how you are deciding whether I have to drink a tea today or not. So if you are drinking a tea in between the class, you will be having a little like a good energy, and you can focus a little more. Even surviving the entire day's pressure and all, you can actually feel a little more fresh, and you can see the result in your learning, right? That is none other than an operational management decision. So therefore it is actually a recurrent process. It's again and again we will be taking it, very frequently it will be happening. So such kind of management is known as operational management decision. Like when it comes to the strategic management decision, when we are comparing with the operational management decision, this is actually less frequently only we will be taking, but the impact will be more deep seated. We cannot simply undo the changes or the impact which is actually happening through a strategic management decision. For example, you are deciding to buy a car, or you are deciding to buy a phone. After purchasing, you feel like, okay, this is not that good. Can you undo the decision? Can you just tell the manufacturer like, I don't like this, you can take it back and I am going to buy a new one? No, it's not like that. At the same time, if you are going to buy a chai, and when you are coming back, it's not the, if it is you're feeling like it is not that good, means like what you can do, you can, okay, I can decide like I am not going to drink the chai again from here. Simply, like, it's actually not, it's actually a matter of 10 rupees, you can just leave it, right? So that is none other than your operational management decision and strategic management decision. In the operational management decision, you can say like, okay, when to irrigate, how much manuals I should apply, or like in what frequency the weeding has to be happen. So such kind of questions, like what, how, when, such kind of questions will be answered in the operational management decision. But when it comes to the strategic management decision, it is like maybe constructing a farm building, or maybe procuring a farm machinery, like maybe a tractor or something like that. Such kind of decisions will be a strategic management decision. So the basic difference is like, this impact is short lived, this impact will be very much deep seated or long lived, and this is actually taken recurrently, more frequently, but this is actually taken only less frequently. You will not be purchasing a tractor in every week, right? So that is the difference between organizational management decisions. So this is regarding the organizational setup of like how actually you are managing the farm. Second one is administrative management decision. In administrative management decision, you are actually the auditor, or you are actually the head, right? So you have to keep the records, you have to maintain, like, okay, the registers and all. You have to check actually whether, how actually you would have studied the cash flow statement and all, right, in the agricultural finance part. So this is actually regarding the entire management, the administrative part. But there is something another called marketing management decision. After the agricultural production program, it has to be marketed properly. Also, during the agricultural production program, the input should be procured, right? We have studied the subject matter of agricultural marketing in our previous marathon. Like, it is consisting of uh, product marketing as well as input marketing. So input has to be procured by the farmer entrepreneur, product has to be sold out efficiently to the market by the farmer entrepreneur. That is none other than the buying and selling decisions. So the buying and selling decisions will be coming under the marketing management decision. So each and every decisions we are taking during our agricultural crop production, or maybe the farm management, can be classified into organizational, administrative and marketing management decisions. Then this is actually a core idea that we should be knowing while we are dealing with the agricultural farm management. This is actually the conceptual framework that is only remaining in the farm management. Rest everything is actually somewhat theoretical and you can easily study. So economic principles which is actually applied to the farm management, which is consisting of different principles like law of diminishing returns, principles of factor substitution, principles of product substitution, principle of equimarginal returns, opportunity cost principle, minimum loss principle, principles of comparative advantage and time comparison principle. So all these principles, I'm going to give you simple examples, and we are trying to understand how actually this is working. So if you are thorough with agricultural production economics, I would say, like, if you have gone through our previous marathon properly, the half of the thing is already sorted. The first one is law of diminishing returns, principles of factor substitution, principle of product substitution, and almost this four principles. This is almost covered in our previous class. I'll be explaining it once again as the theory, but still you will be understanding, you'll be having a little more understanding if you are good at the agricultural production economics. Then the rest of four. So we are classifying this into 4 plus 4. So first we'll be going through that easy idea. First one, law of diminishing returns. So I guess like people are there in the concurrent chat. So do you recollect our law of diminishing marginal utility from the microeconomic theory? Law of diminishing marginal utility from the microeconomic theory. Can somebody give me an example or maybe the definition or whatever that is coming to your mind for the law of diminishing marginal utility in the chat box? It will be helping us to understand the law of diminishing returns. So anyway, I'll be just explaining it. By the time you can type down it in the chat box, and I'll be just monitoring. Okay, so law of diminishing marginal utility, which is also known as the Gauss's first law that we have studied in the microeconomics theory, was the basic fundamental law of our consumption, right? The first law of consumption that we have studied in the microeconomic theory. That is none, actually we studied it like, if I have the stock of a thing more and more, the additional satisfaction that I am getting, yes, LDMU, the additional satisfaction that I am getting by having a little more stock is actually diminishing, lesser and lesser, right? Imagine that I am giving you a tea and I am asked you to give a rating for it out of 10. Maybe you will be giving 9, right? Again, continuously I am giving another tea and I asked you to rate it. Maybe you would not be giving 9 again, because you already had a cup of tea in your stomach, right? So in the second tea you will be giving a rank of maybe 7 or 6. Again, for the third tea, how much you will be ranking? Maybe 5 or 4. Then again, because like the more stock that we are having with a single thing, the additional satisfaction that we are getting is keeping on diminishing. Apple eaten over a period of time. No, it's not over a period of time. It is continuously. Okay, continuously. Maybe you would have um, meant the same thing, I guess. So in the law of diminishing returns, we are considering unlimited resources and we are considering continuous consumption. If I am not continuously consuming, obviously my additional satisfaction may be varying. It can be increasing or it can be decreasing. Exactly, marginal utility decreases successively if we are continuously continuing the consumption, right? So law of diminishing returns is actually the production counterpart of law of diminishing marginal utility, or LDMU. Okay, so this is actually the production counterpart of the consumption function. This is actually a production counterpart of the consumption function. We shall see, we will compare it, so it will be a little more easy. Okay, so we have seen actually what actually happens when we are giving the variable resources continuously, right? I am taking you back to our TPP curve. So what actually we have done? We are trying to add more and more stocks of our variable resource, right? One of the variable resource we have taken, let it be a fertilizer. Okay, maybe 10 grams or 15 grams of urea, that is each packet. Okay, so I am trying to increase unit by unit urea. So I am going to increase by 1 unit, then again 2 unit, 3 unit, 4 unit. So this was actually our variable resources. So like the law of diminishing marginal utility, while I am consuming, here I am increasing my resource, increasing my variable resource, and I am checking my I am checking my total product and marginal product. So we have seen the total product will be like this. This is actually your total product, and this is actually your marginal product. So marginal product is none other than the additional production for each additional increase in the variable resources. Just the same way as like the additional satisfaction that I am getting while increasing one more unit of consumption. There it was marginal utility, here it is marginal physical product. There it was actually maybe tea or apples or orange or whatever it is, here it is a variable resource like maybe fertilizer or pesticides or irrigation or seeds or whatever it is. There it was actually my total satisfaction, here it is my total product. There it was my additional satisfaction, which is also known as marginal utility, here it is my additional production, which is none other than the marginal product, right? So after our inflection point, what actually happens? As I am increasing my variable resources unit by unit, the additional production or the addition to the total product is actually decreasing. This is none other than diminishing point, right? So therefore my marginal product is actually diminishing as I am increasing my variable resource, or as the stock of my variable resource increases, the contribution to the total product by each successive input is going on diminishing. It becomes zero, it becomes negative. This is none other than your law of diminishing returns. So that's why actually I told you that this is actually the counterpart of the law of diminishing marginal utility. Can you follow me? Can everybody give me a thumbs up or reaction or something in the chat box? It is really easy. For the law of diminishing returns, you don't need to study anything, because like you already studied the law of diminishing marginal utility. So law of diminishing returns, so this is actually because of the action of law of diminishing marginal returns only we are already having a diminishing marginal product. Maybe your total product is becoming maximum, like you cannot infinitely increase your production. You cannot always infinitely increase your production. It will be reaching a maximum, and after that it will be reaching a minimum. Okay, so that is none other than your law of diminishing returns. Again, for easy understanding, we are skipping to the fourth principle. What is principle of equimarginal return? What is coming to your mind? Any consumption counterpart is there for principle of equimarginal return? Can you give me in the chat box? What is coming to your mind? What was Gauss second law? In the consumption theory, we have studied another important theory. What was it? I'm expecting an answer in the chat box. Resources are limited. So what actually happens there? I'm asking about the theory that we have studied in the microeconomics. Gauss second law. What was the theory's name? First one was law of diminishing marginal utility. Second one was yes, law of equimarginal utility. Yes, exactly, law of equimarginal utility. So equimarginal utility is none other than we are trying to keep the resources right now limited. Here in the law of diminishing marginal utility, we had infinite number of resources. Here also we had infinite resource. That's why actually we are experimenting with each and successive increases in the variable resource. You have ample number of resources here, but right now we have limited resources. When we have limited resources, and where actually we have to allocate this limited resources into different things, then how we are going to allocate it? In the law of equimarginal utility, we have studied that we will be allocating it in such a way that the marginal utility derived from each and every unit of allocation will be equating to the same. That was none other than your law of equimarginal utility. So similarly, principle of equimarginal returns is actually the production counterpart of our Gauss second law, or the principle of equimarginal utility. So here what actually happens, I'll be explaining it with one slide. Okay, so principle of equimarginal returns. So here also we have, maybe right now actually we are trying to keep the resources are some 1,000 rupee notes. Okay, I have 1,000 rupees, then I have additional a second 1,000 rupee, then the third 1,000 rupee, totally 5,000 rupees I have. Okay, total 5,000 rupees. So I have 5 units of 1,000 rupee notes. So each unit of this 1,000 rupee notes has to be allocated for buying something, some of the inputs. Maybe it can be fertilizer or seeds or pesticides or whatever it is. So each of these units of resources, or the monetary resource, has to be allocated between 3 major products. First one is paddy, second one is sugarcane, and third one is cotton. So how I will be allocating it? That is our question. Okay, so how, here we have fixed amount of resource. We are given, like we have just 5,000 rupees, and we have alternate uses like paddy, sugarcane, and maybe cotton. So how we are going to allocate it? There also we have tried to equate the marginal utility. So therefore here we are trying to equate the marginal product. Here for the marginal product, since it is actually a what we call for it, like monetary resource, we are trying to equate the total revenue generated by the additional product. So what is actually the total additional revenue generated? Can you keep it in the chat box? What is the total additional revenue that is generated when I am increasing my input by one more unit? What is it called? What is it called? What is the total revenue which is generated when I am increasing my variable resource by one more unit, or my input by one more unit? What we call for it? What was it? We studied this terminology in the last class for understanding the optimal production from the input side. optimal production from the input side, we have equated two major things. First one was marginal value product and second one was marginal input cost. So marginal value product is none other than the total revenue which is generated by increasing your variable resources by one more unit. So here also I am increasing my variable resources by one more unit, and I am going to check how much additional total revenue which is generated from each of the enterprises. So when I am giving my 1 unit of 1000 rupees to paddy, I am generating MVP of 2000 rupees. Second, I am getting 1400 rupees. Third, I am getting 1200 rupees. Fourth, I am getting 1100 rupees, and fifth, I am getting 1000 rupees. Similarly, in sugarcane, 3200, 3000, 2500, 1600 and 1200. And finally, in the cotton, 2200, 1800, 1400, 1800. So here actually, how actually the marginal value product is actually generated? I am going to increase my production, input usage by 1 unit. So therefore, I will be getting an output. The additional output is none other than your marginal physical product, right? So marginal physical product is the additional production which is actually created. So the marginal physical product into the price of the product, it is none other than your PY. This is none other than your MVP, marginal value product. This is how actually you are arriving at your marginal value product. For the successive increase in the inputs, how much additional product happen into the price of the output will be giving you the total revenue that is generated by the added input, right? The additional input. So that is the marginal value product. So we are trying to generate the marginal value product for each of the successive input of the resources for the three different cases such as paddy, sugarcane and cotton. So why actually, for if we are keeping just the paddy, why actually, as I am increasing my variable resources, my MVP is getting decreasing? What is the reason for it? Why my marginal value product is keeping on decreasing here when it comes to the paddy? Can somebody answer me in the chat box? What may be the reason? The reason is very simple. It is just because of the basic principle that we have already studied the previous slide. That is none other than your law of diminishing returns. As you are increasing your production, your MPP is decreasing. Your price of the output will be constant, right? So therefore, as MPP decreasing, marginal value product also will be decreased. So as the input increases, MPP decreases, therefore MVP also decreases. That's why actually for the successive increase in the resources, your marginal value product for paddy independently it is decreasing, for sugarcane it is decreasing, for cotton also it is decreasing. I hope you got my point. So we have three different cases, and where should I allocate all these 1000 rupee notes, the 5000 rupee notes into different enterprises where I am getting maximum revenue, right? So therefore the first will be given to sugarcane, second will be given to cotton, which is actually the next best alternative. The third we will be giving to paddy. Then the fourth we will be giving to 3200 was the first option, the best option. Second one, it is again sugarcane, that is 3000 rupees, that is the highest revenue that we can generate. Then after that 3000, then 2500. Again I will be giving my third 5000 rupees to sugarcane. Then after that I will be giving to the cotton, that is the best next alternative. This is the fourth one, and the fifth, then the final 1000 note I will be giving to 2000 rupees, right? Exactly, this is the fifth rupee note. So therefore I will be allocating among the limited resources of 5000 rupees, 3000 rupees I will be allocating to sugarcane, 1000 rupee I will be allocating to paddy, and 1000 rupee I will be allocating to cotton. Yes, exactly. Thank you for the responses. Yes, so this is how actually for the limited cases of resources we will be trying to use the principle of equimarginal returns. So the limited resources shall be allocated among alternative uses in such a way that the marginal value product of the last unit of the resources is equal in all uses. Theoretically we will be saying that, but if it is not practically possible, we will be choosing the best next alternative. Okay, this is the principle of equimarginal returns. So right now we know the two major principles, and you don't even need to revise it because you already know the law of marginal utility and law of equimarginal diminishing marginal utility as well as equimarginal utility. The counterparts are law of diminishing returns and equimarginal returns. So therefore two theories are completed. So this one is done. This one is also done. Then principle of factor substitution and principle of product substitution. What is the principle of factor substitution? This is none other than your factor relationship. Principle of factor substitution. What is principle of product substitution? It is none other than your product relationship. Again, we are going back to our previous class. So we shall see what is actually the principle of factor substitution and principle of product substitution. So as I have already told, it is dealing with the principle of, it deals with the factor relationship. So what is actually the principle says? Principle of factor substitution guides the farmer manager in choosing the most appropriate method of production or technology that produces a given level of output with least cost. So here, let me give you an example. So what is substitution? Substitution is nothing but I have two resources. This is none other than your factor substitution, right? So therefore, this is actually your desired output, which is actually a function of x1 and x2. This is actually your function, or you can say this is actually your idea of isoquant, right? Isoquant is none other than the functional relationship or the different combinations, the unit of combinations of two resources, which actually gives you the same level of output. Okay, so here we are assuming that x1 and x2 are substitutes. So what is substitution means? When I am increasing one, something else is reduced. That's why actually our isoquant is negatively sloping, because if you are increasing x1, then obviously this is actually your initial point A. So this is actually your x1 and this is actually your x2. If you want to increase x1, here the x1 is actually increased, right? But what actually happened? Our x2 is decreased. So therefore, if you want to increase one unit, another one should be decreased, right? So to what extent we can substitute one resource for another resource? To what extent we can add one resource by sacrificing one resource? That is the basic idea of principle of factor substitution. Am I audible? I think there was a little glitch, I guess. Okay. So to what extent actually we can continue this factor substitution? That is actually our major issue here. Okay. So what is the rule that we are using here? It is none other than the decrease in cost is greater than the increase in cost. The decrease in cost is greater than the increase in cost. Why we are concerned with the decrease in cost and increase in cost? Shamraj, thank you. Thank you. So what actually happens here? I have two major resources. As I have already told in the previous class, when we are dealing with the factors, you have to buy the resources, right? You have to buy the resources. So this is actually using up the input, means like spending some money. It's like spending some money, right? Because I imagine that I am a farmer, but I don't have much farming history and all. So therefore, if I am leasing in some land, I'm taking some land in lease and I'm trying to start my cultivation. So obviously, I would be needing the farmyard manure, which is something that I don't have. I have to purchase it. I don't have urea with me. I have to purchase it. So both of them are giving you nitrogen to the crop plants, right? So for nitrogen, I have two substitutes. First one is urea, second one is farmyard manure. And you know how actually it has to be applied, right? You are good in agronomy and all, I guess, while you are studying your agricultural UG at least. So we have two substitutes. So as I have already told, when we are dealing with these substitutes, it is actually incurring some cost. Okay, so I can substitute one with another, but when I am substituting one with another, what actually happens? If I am increasing my x1, there is actually some additional cost. This is none other than your additional cost, right? When you are increasing your x1, you are buying more x1, they are inputs. So therefore, you will be having some additional cost for purchasing some additional x1. The additional x1 will be having some additional cost. But along with increasing x1, some x2 will be sacrificed, right? So x2 was actually getting sacrificed. So what is actually, while x2 is getting sacrificed, I am saving up some money here. Earlier I used to have more x2, right now I just need lesser x2. It's like I am increasing my farmyard manure and reducing my urea expenses. So therefore, what expense that I am getting reduced by sacrificing x2? That is none other than your reduction in cost. Okay, so this is actually what happens during substitution. When I am substituting one resource with another resource, I am getting more resource and I am sacrificing another substitute lesser, right? Along with that, some additional cost is generated, some reduction in cost is also generated. So the rule here, the thumb rule here is none other than your additional cost should be always lesser than the reduction in the cost, or else it will not be profitable. Imagine that you have a, let me give you a simple example. Okay, when we were kids, uh, we used to have some instrument box or maybe some pens or pencils that we had, right? Like our papa will be buying us some good pens and we will be having a pen or maybe an eraser. Okay, so when we are going to the class, I'll be having another friend. His name was also Ajay. So everywhere, wherever I go, I'll be having a friend who named Ajay. So my friend Ajay also had a pen. My papa also brought me a pen, and whilst came to the class, in the class, I am feeling attracted to the pen that he is having because it is actually a little more fancy kind of pen, and I have actually almost like kind of a normal kind of pen. So I am asking, like, Ajay, can we exchange these pens? I'll be using that pen and you can use my pen. That we used to practice when we were kids, right? When we were in school. So whether Ajay, what is actually happening? It's simply substitution. Both are actually doing the same thing, writing in the notebook. But still, we are trying to exchange our resources. I'm going to exchange it for something else, right? So when he will be ready to exchange his pen, he should also feel like this is profitable, right? Imagine that my pen's ink is almost ending and his pen is almost new, brand new. Okay, and I am asking him like, can we exchange this pen? The My friend Ajay, whether he will be agreeing it for not? Obviously no, because it is a brand new pen. It is actually a fancy pen. So he should be exchanging it if and only if he should find it profitable. Like my pen should have some base, should have some basic attractive thing. Like okay, at least it should have a full ink. It should be properly working. It should be at least fancy enough to look like his pen. But it is not like that. Whether he'll be dealing, he will be doing it or not. No, he'll be doing it only if he is actually making it profitable. What I am feeling it profitable because like if I'm exchanging, I am getting a fancy pen. The additional benefit I'm getting is actually good. Also, my pen's ink is also actually going to become, I mean, ending, right? So this is basically happens here. When I am substituting one resource with respect to another resource, the additional cost which is generated by increasing the resource should be always lesser than the reduction in the cost. Sorry, excuse me. Okay, while I am substituting, always it's the cost component, right? It's actually the amount that we are spending. So the reduction in the cost should be always lesser than the addition in the cost, right? We should always have a negative side of the reduction, because while the cost is reduced, we are so happy, right? When the cost is reduced, we are so happy. At the same time, like when the agri is actually announcing some maybe some festive discounts for our course, you would be always happy, right? Why? Because you are getting the same course for a lesser price. So therefore, when I am substituting one, the reduction in the cost was more, means you are so happy, and the addition in the cost is actually very much less. It's like spending 5 rupees and saving 20 rupees. You'll be going for that, right? The net profit will be almost 15 rupees. You are trying to add x1 and you are having an additional cost of maybe 10 rupees. Imagine that addition of x1 is actually incurring you an additional 10 rupees. But along with that, substitution of x2 is actually saving you some money of 30 rupees, you will be going for that substitution. That is the principle of substitution, principle of factor substitution. So until and unless the decrease in the cost is always greater than the increase in the cost, you will be keeping on substituting it until the additional cost as well as the reduction in the cost becomes equal 0. After that, you will not be doing it. After that, what actually happens? Again, if you are continuing your substitution, the additional cost will be greater than the reduction cost. It's like you are buying a resource with 50 rupees and you are saving 20 rupees. Whether you will be going for it? No, obviously not. A rational producer will not be going for it. So this is the basic idea of principle of factor substitution. Is it clear? Principle of factor substitution. So the decrease in the cost should be always greater than the increase in the cost. Clear? Are you getting my point? Yes. Okay. So again, if so, we'll be again just interpreting this idea. Okay. So we have decrease in the cost is greater than increase in the cost, right? So what is actually decrease in the cost? Decrease in the cost means the decreased what we call for it, the decreased amount of sacrificed input. It was none other than your x2, right? So therefore it is none other than your delta x2, the additional sacrificed input, into its price px2. Is it correct? This is none other than your decrease in the cost. We are trying to express it in mathematically. What is your decrease in cost? There are some additional x2 which is actually getting decreased. That is the quantity delta x2 into its unit price px2. This is the total decrease in your cost. Am I correct? This should be greater than your increase in cost, the added cost. How the added cost can be found out? Added cost is none other than the added input, that is delta x1 into price of x1. Am I correct? Can you follow me? This is really important. Can you follow me? Can you give me a thumbs up or reaction in the chat box? This, like, if they are asking complicated questions in the exam, you can use this idea. Okay, rather than by hearting all these things, you should be conceptually understanding what actually happens. That's why actually I am starting with a story where actually a rational producer would be doing what is the basic idea of additional cost and reduction in the cost while we are substituting it, and we understood like the decrease in the cost should be greater than increase in the cost, and we are trying to express it in mathematically. We are going it in a little systematic way. Okay, so delta x2 into px2 should be greater than delta x into px1. This, it can be x1 or x2 as we are dealing with the added or sacrificed input. Here actually the sacrificed input is x2. That's why actually we are giving us delta x2. If x1 is actually getting sacrificed, you can keep it on x1 also, but always remember which is actually sacrificed and which is actually added. So this is actually your sacrificed input, this is actually your added input. Clear, I guess. So delta x2 into px2 is greater than delta x1 into px1. So therefore, I am going to rearrange this. I am taking this x1 to here and I am taking this px2 to here. Okay, I am just rearranging this equation. So what actually happens? Delta x2 divided by delta x1 should be greater than px1 should be px1 divided by px2. I am just rearranging this equation. I have taken this delta x1 here and I have taken px2 to here. Okay, so delta x2 divided by delta x1 should be greater than px1 by px2. I hope you got my point. So what is this delta x2 divided by delta x1? Can somebody tell me what is delta x2 divided by delta x1? We have studied this. Exactly. Marginal rate of technical substitution. We are dealing with the input side, right? So therefore it is MRTS, not MRPS. So therefore this is none other than marginal rate of technical substitution should be greater than the inverse price ratio. This is actually the principle of factor substitution. So simply you can just learn like marginal rate of technical substitution should be greater than principle of price ratio, but this is actually the idea. So as long as your marginal rate of technical substitution is greater than the price ratio, you can go on substituting the added input for the sacrificed input. Once the marginal rate of technical substitution is equal to price ratio, your substitution becomes stopping there. Okay, so this is how actually you are arriving at the principle of factor substitution. Similarly, we can do the product substitution also. So this one is also completed. This is completed. This is completed. Principle of factor substitution is completed. Right now, you can help me to complete the principle of product substitution. How we will be understanding the principle of product substitution? In the product substitution, it is dealing with the product-product relationship. So we had a production possibility curve. So here we have fixed inputs. Inputs are fixed here, and we have two outputs, that is y1 and y2. And y1 is actually increased when y2 is getting sacrificed. So therefore, y1 and y2 are actually substitutes here. Okay, like we are substituting one product with respect to another product. So to what extent actually we can continue this product substitution? That is the basic idea of principle of product substitution. So here again I am dealing with two products, that is y1 as well as y2. Imagine that y1 is actually the added product. Y1 is actually your added product and y2 is actually your sacrificed product. Y2 is actually your sacrificed product. Okay, so this is actually your production possibility curve. Y1, this is actually your y2, this is actually your production possibility curve. So what actually happens when I am increasing a product? You will be accompanied, if an added product is there, there will be accompanied with respect to, and if the product is increased, more product with me, more marketing, more money will be there. So therefore this will be your added returns, or increase in the revenue or increase in the returns or whatever it is, added returns. But along with, when I am increasing y1, what actually happens? It is actually competitive, right? So y1 is increasing, y2 is decreasing. That's why actually we are substituting y1 for y2. So when y1 is increased, our second product y2 is actually getting reduced. So therefore that sacrifice product will be reducing your some total revenue. So therefore here actually there will be some reduction in returns. What you will be preferring? More returns or lesser returns? What is actually a rational consumer or a rational producer or whomever who's actually being logical would be preferring? We will be always dealing with profit, right? We will be always seeking profit. We will be always looking for profit. We will be always looking for additional revenue, right? So therefore, I will be looking for always, when I am sacrificing some returns, what for I have sacrificed this? That sacrifice should generate me more returns. So therefore the added returns should be always greater than the reduction in the returns for the sacrifice of y2. This is actually the basic idea. There actually in the input side it was actually cost. So therefore we preferred lesser cost. So therefore decrease in the cost should be always greater than the increase in the cost. Here more returns is preferred than the lesser returns or reduced returns. So therefore added returns should be greater than the reduction in the returns. This is actually your thumb rule in the case of product relationship. So right now we are going to elaborate this. What is your added returns? Some added product is there. Y1 is actually your added product. So therefore the added product is none other than your delta y1, right? And what is the returns generated? Into py1, right? Delta y into py1, the unit price of the y1, that is giving you the additional returns which is generated. It should be greater than the reduction in the returns. What is reduced here? Y2. So therefore the reduced returns is none other than your delta y2 into py2. So this is actually your basic condition that mathematical condition that we have generated from the thumb rule, right? So therefore right now again we are trying to rearrange this equation, right? I am taking this y1 here and I am taking this delta, I am taking this py2 here, right? So finally, I am getting like py1 divided by py2 is greater than delta y2 divided by delta y1, right? If I am just inverting this equation, it is none other than delta y2 divided by delta y1 is less than py1 divided by py2. So what is this delta y2 divided by delta y1? It's none other than your marginal rate of product substitution should be less than price ratio or inverse price ratio. This is actually the principle of product substitution. Are you getting my point? So marginal rate of product substitution is less than P1. Yes, Shamraj, you have answered it correctly. So this is how actually we are arriving. So see, it's very easy to just by heart what is actually this theory is, but it's rather than much important to understand what is the conceptual background here. You can just elaborate this marginal rate of product substitution, basically explaining the conceptual framework like to what extent I will be continuing my product substitution until my marginal rate of product substitution is less than my price ratio. This is how actually we are arriving at the marginal rate of product substitution. Rest everything is clear. So therefore, we have understood all the basic four principles that we have already studied from the previous ideas, none other than law of diminishing marginal returns, factor substitution, product substitution, and equimarginal returns. Coming to the second four one. So I have not classified these laws just because of the difficulty level also. Okay, we are trying to take out our ideas that we already have from our previous memory. We are not studying something new. We are trying to deduct what actually we have studied already and trying to extract some additional new things from the same thing that we have studied. So therefore, it will not be a burden for you. That is actually how we should study. Then fifth one, opportunity cost principle. What is opportunity cost principle? It's really easy. Why? Because we already studied this principle of equimarginal returns. What is equimarginal returns? We already studied that when we are having limited resources, we should be allocating our resources in such a way that the marginal value product which is generated from each and every allocation should be equal or likely to be the same. Similarly, we are using the same example for the opportunity cost principle. So what is opportunity cost? Opportunity cost is none other than the cost which is sacrificed for the best next alternative, right? So for each and every activity, there is something happening as a sacrifice. For example, I must say that like when you are attending this life, this is actually for your exam preparation or whatever it is, but what is actually your opportunity cost? You are spending like it may be your fourth year, maybe it's actually your college engineering time period. I know how it feels like you will not be the same person after you pass out. You will not be having the opportunity to meet each and every one of your friends, even if you feel like okay, I'll be calling everyone, I'll be meeting in between. No, it's not that possible. This is actually the last time that you are dealing with your college. You are loving your college, you are missing your friends. You don't know how actually you will be back to some similar kind of position, but it's the life is going to change right now, right? So that is actually the opportunity cost that you are sacrificing right now. Maybe you would have been having some friends who's actually just chilling like anything because they understand that this is actually their final time period in your college. So therefore they'll be spending the time with friends. Especially the evenings are so beautiful, I know that. Literally, I know you. So you are sacrificing that and you are trying to make out your career from the classes that we are providing, right? So while you have chosen to go to the live, why you have chosen to learn at this evening time, you have an opportunity cost that actually gives you some pleasure. That is actually some sacrifice. So that is actually opportunity cost. So for every choice that you are taking, something is sacrificed. There is absolutely nothing without sacrifice. So that is something opportunity cost. Like economic economics class is actually turning into some philosophy class, I guess. But still, we are connected with the people like that, right? So what is opportunity cost principle is doing? All these 5,000 rupee notes, we are going back to the same examples. I have 5,000 rupee notes, right? 1000 rupee notes into 5, total 5000 rupees, and 5 number of 5 number of 1000 rupee notes I have. So whenever I am allocating one of my resource, a unit of resource to something, I am sacrificing something which I would have done it in a best next alternative, right? The same way, the time that you have allocated right now to choose the life, you could have done it to spend time with the friends, but you have left it, you have sacrificed it, and you chose to keep the time period, that unit of time, to the life session of the agri addict. Similarly, this 1000 rupee note, first 1000 rupee note, you can give it for paddy, give it for sugarcane, and give it for cotton. So we have given it to the best possibility. What was it? It was none other than sugarcane, because it is actually giving you the maximum marginal value product. But when you are giving that first rupee of 1000 rupee note to the sugarcane, or the resources that you are brought with that first 1000 rupee notes to the sugarcane, it is actually sacrificing the returns from the paddy 2000 rupees and the cotton, that is 2200 rupees. So this is actually the opportunity cost principle. So it is always done like, when we are allocating a resource to something, it should be always higher than your opportunity cost, or there should not be a best alternative over this. That's how actually we have to allocate it. It's simply because of this you are trying to allocate your time period for the live class right now, because you know that you can catch up with your friends at any time, but there is no time to build your career after this. If you leave this, there is nothing absolutely. So that's how actually we are trying to make the choices. This is basically the opportunity cost principle. So if an input is used in a particular production process, it has no alternative use at that particular point of time. At that point of time, you cannot use the same resources to something else. It is actually exhausted. We are dealing with the variable resources here. So therefore the input will be losing some income from the alternatives, like maybe paddy or cotton. So therefore it should be in such a way that it should be in the best alternative, and even if the next best alternative is foregone, if there is some second chances there, you can go for the next best alternative. That is the basic thing. Like the same way, like maybe after 7 o'clock, you'll be just trying to catch up with your friends, because you have already done your part for the career. And the second next best alternative, you can go and catch up with your friends, have the dinner, take some time, and come back and again study back, right? So this is the basic idea of opportunity cost principle. Is it clear? Yes, sir. Leaving an income to generate more. Yes, exactly. Is it clear? We have studied the 5 principles very much easily. Can we continue? Rest 3 are there. Can you follow me? Yes. Coming to another thing called minimum loss principle. This is also actually a theoretical, a philosophical principle, I would say. So before going to that, uh, I want you to recollect the cost concepts that we have already studied when we studied the basic ideas of microeconomics. That is like, we had fixed cost, variable cost. At that time I used to tell like, it is actually the cost for the fixed resources as well as the variable resources. So therefore in the short run we can see fixed cost as well as variable cost will be there. In the long run we will be having only variable cost, because there is no fixed resources, right? Everything will be variable. So therefore I am giving you one example. This is actually an example directly taken by Subbareddy's textbook. So this is actually, I think, a case of sunflower cultivation. So for the sunflower cultivation, we are considering a short run production function. Okay, so therefore we have a fixed cost part as well as variable cost part. For example, we have a land, so the rent paid is actually fixed cost, but the operating expenses, the recurring expenses for maybe seeds, fertilizers, pesticides, labor, capital, all those things will be coming under the variable expenses. So total variable cost is actually 4700 rupees. Total fixed cost is actually 2700 rupees. So your total cost will be total fixed cost plus total variable cost, that is none other than 7400 rupees. This is actually the question. Okay, don't worry about all these values, I'm just giving you the question. This is the question. So total cost is actually 7400 rupees. This is actually your expense part. Okay, so spending this 7400 rupees, how much you have created? Your output is actually 9.5 quintals per hectare. 9.5 quintals per hectare. And the price of the output, this is none other than your PY. Okay, so just to simplify it from our economic perspective, the production perspective, output is actually your Y. Price per quintal is actually your PY. Okay, PY. So the price of the output is actually rupees 1150 rupees. So how much gross income you will be getting? It's none other than how much total production has happened into its price, right? So therefore the gross income is none other than output into price, Y into PY, that is 9.5 into 1150 rupees, you'll be getting 10,925 rupees. This is actually your gross income. So what is your net income, or you can say this also as profit, pi, profit. Okay, what is your profit or what is your net income? Net income is none other than the gross income minus your total expenses. This is your total income. This is actually your total expense. This is none other than your total cost. So therefore the gross income is, or net income is none other than gross income minus total cost. Gross income minus total cost. The total revenue which is generated minus all the expenses paid out. What is actually the current balance that you are having or profit that you are having? That is your net income, right? So net income is 10,925 minus 7,500. You will be getting rupees 3,525. As this much is clear, right? So he is actually having a positive profit. Are you getting my point? Till here, is everything is okay? So he is actually having a net income or the profit of 3,525. So he is happy. So he will be continuing the production. That is the case. So right now the question comes like this. The variable cost, again the same way, the idea actually a little more changes. Here everything remains the same. Variable cost is the same, 4,700 rupees. Total fixed cost 2,700 rupees. So therefore your total cost is 7,400. Same way the total expenses is actually remaining unchanged. Output is also even the same, 9.5 quintals per hectare. That is actually your total output. But here something happened. The price has reduced in the market. If the only change is like we didn't get the expected price. The same farmer was actually next season also he have sown this much expenses, additional expense, and even the same quantity of produce he could meet, but the final price of the output has reduced due to the market scenario to 750 rupees. Earlier he had 1150 rupees. Right now it has fall to almost 750 rupees, almost 300 rupees fall has happened. Okay, so what is his gross income? It's none other than the output into its price, right? So therefore 9.5 into 750 rupees, he is getting 7,125 rupees. Earlier he had 10,925 rupees. Right now he is actually getting only 7,125 rupees. Okay, so this is actually your gross income. So right now we want to understand like whether he is actually having some profit or not. So in order to understand profit, he'll be checking the gross income with respect to his total expenses, right? So net income is gross income minus total cost. So 7,125 minus 7,400 rupees. He is getting minus rupees 2,000 minus rupees 275. Earlier he had a profit of 3,525 rupees. Right now he have a net income, or we can say a loss of 2,075 sorry 275 rupees. Loss of 275 rupees. So at this stage, if he can forecast this already, while he is understanding, while he is showing that the price is going to decrease by 750 rupees, understanding that his loss will be 2,275 rupees, whether the farmer will be continuing his cultivation or not, that is my question. If this is the scenario, whether the farmer will be continuing the cultivation or not, a yes or no question. If he is having a loss of 2,275 rupees, whether he will be continuing the farming or not, that is the question. Can you answer in the chat box? Is it a yes or no? If it is, he is continuing, it is a yes. If he will not be continuing, it is a no. Continuing the cultivation. Okay. Yes, the answer will be continuing the cultivation. Even he is actually having a loss, he'll be continuing the cultivation. Obviously, as a layman language, we will be thinking like, okay, here actually he is having a positive profit. He is actually having some money in his pocket. He is paying TFC of 2,700 rupees. Exactly. Yes. So therefore, imagine that like if even if we are incurring some losses from a business, This principle is actually helps us to continue the cultivation. Why so? I'll be explaining it. Okay. Always remember that fixed cost is something which is actually not at all associated with the output. That's why actually we try to connect the variable cost or variable resources with respect to the total output. Okay. Even if you have produced or even if you have not produced, the total fixed cost will be there. I am just taking the same example that if the farmer is actually not at all cultivating, what will be happening? Okay, if the farmer is not at all cultivating, what will be his variable resources? His variable resources will be zero, right? So therefore his variable cost will be equal to zero. This will be totally cut down, right? This will not be here. Here total fixed cost. What is fixed cost? Cost for fixed resources. Whether you have produced or whether you have not produced, that land is remaining there. Even if it is fallow also, you have to pay the rent, right? So therefore your total fixed cost will be 2700 rupees. It will be there as such, right? So I am giving you the scenario where actually if he stopped the cultivation, so the total fixed cost will be 2700 rupees. This is actually not at all connected with the output, but the variable resources you can cut down because you are not producing. If you are not producing means variable resources will be zero. You are not used your seeds, you have not used pesticides, nothing is there. There is no operation, so therefore no operating expenses. So therefore your total fixed cost will be 2700, and this will be actually your total cost right now. Your total cost will be 2700 rupees, right? There is zero output because you have not cultivated anything. So therefore this is zero. So your gross income will be equal to zero. Gross income will be equal to zero, right? So right now you are trying to understand how much your net income is. Net income is none other than your gross income minus your total expenses, right? Zero minus total expenses. What will be the answer? It will be minus 2700 rupees. Minus 2700 rupees. So if realizing a negative profit, if the farmer stopped the cultivation, his total loss will be increased to minus 2700 rupees. But if he is continuing the cultivation right now, what will be happening? His loss will be minimized from 2700 rupees to 275 rupees. He can manage this 275 rupees when he is comparing with the 2700 rupees. This is basically actually what we are trying to explain in the shutdown point in the market structure. Shutdown point of market structure is none other than the minimum point at which the average variable cost will be there. There actually we have kept the shutdown point just because even under the losses, if the producer or if the farmer or if the market manager can overcome the fixed cost through the business, then he should always continue the cultivation. He should always continue the cultivation if he can overcome the total fixed cost. That is the basic idea. So this is actually the minimum loss principle, where actually we are, even if the business is actually not in the profitable way, he'll be continuing the cultivation if he can minimize the losses rather than just shutting it down. Okay, this is the basic idea of minimum loss principle. Coming to next principle, principle of comparative advantage. So comparative advantage, this is also a basic idea. Like there are two regions. Like, so we are using two different concepts here. First one is absolute advantage and second one is relative advantage. So what is absolute advantage? Here I'll be giving you an example. So absolute advantage means like there is two regions. First one is region A and second one is region B. Let this be in North India, or maybe this is actually in South India, whatever it is, two regions. So in region A, there is groundnut and there is sunflower. Similarly, in region B also, there are the same crops are there. Groundnut is there, sunflower is there. So we are trying to check like for each crops, like what is the gross income, total cost, net income and returns per investment. So our gross income is 5000, total cost is 4700, net income is 300, and finally the returns per rupee invested is actually, it's none other than the, for each rupee that you are invested, how much returns that you are getting. If you are investing 1 rupee, you are getting 1.06 rupee in return back. That is the basic idea. So in region A, we are getting a profitability. So right now we are, don't worry about the returns per rupee invested right now. Just see the net income. That is the basic easiest way, like how much profit it is getting generated. So in region A, if he's actually giving the land area to groundnut, he's actually getting 300 rupees profit. If he's actually giving the land area to sunflower, he's actually getting 690 rupees. So what crop he will be cultivating, whether the groundnut or whether it will be sunflower. That is our question. The crop which is actually giving us more profit, that will be having the absolute advantage from that perspective, right? Because like we are giving the same resource, same area, that we have tried to cultivate groundnut as well as sunflower, and we are checking the profitability, and we understood that the sunflower is actually having higher profitability than groundnut. So therefore we can say that the groundnut is actually having an absolute advantage of absolute advantage than when we are comparing with the groundnut. Similarly, when we are checking the region B, same crops we are cultivating in the same piece of land, and when we are checking the net income, we can understand that the groundnut is actually having more profit here, and the sunflower is actually having lesser profit here. So therefore we can say that the absolute advantage is actually having for groundnut in region B, rather than when we are comparing with the case of sunflower here. I hope you got my point. So therefore in region A, the regional specialization will be going for groundnut, sorry, sunflower, because sunflower is actually profit maximizing. In region B, they will be specializing for groundnut because it is actually not that suitable for the cultivation of sunflower. So he will be specializing for groundnut. This is the basic principle of absolute advantage. Then coming to some relative advantage. Relative advantage, again we are comparing the two crops, red gram and groundnut, with respect to two major regions, region C and region D. Okay, so when we are checking the advantages, what about the absolute advantage? When we are checking in the net income, in the region C, it is clear that groundnut is actually having more absolute advantage in the case of region C, right? So therefore region C will be specializing for groundnut. What about in the region D? Region D also, when we are checking, you can see that red gram is actually having more absolute advantage in the case of region D, right? So give me a moment. Okay, so region C will be automatically specializing for groundnut because groundnut is actually having an absolute advantage in region C, and red gram is actually having an absolute advantage in region D. But if you are checking the red gram crop alone, when we are going to the crop specification, even if region D is actually having an absolute advantage of red gram, you can say that red gram will be profitable if you are cultivating in region C. That is actually the comparative advantage. Even if region C is actually having an absolute advantage of groundnut, obviously what will be happening? Here, see, this is actually absolute advantage case. So based on the absolute advantage, we will be going for the region specialization. So region C, we have more profitability for the groundnut. So therefore, if region C is actually opting for the groundnut, and region D, we have absolute advantage for groundnut, and then net profit for the groundnut is actually 300 rupees, right? But at the same time, the same red gram, which is actually specialized in region D, if it were cultivated in region C, the profit is actually here it is 300, it is actually here it is 400. Even if the red gram is actually having lesser absolute advantage in case of region C, it is actually having more comparative advantage when we are comparing with the region D. That is the basic concept here, right? So therefore it is better if red gram is cultivated in region C rather than in region D, even if it was actually having an absolute advantage in the region D. Are you getting my point? Can you follow me? That is the basic idea. So there are two major concepts such as absolute advantage and relative advantage, which helps in the specialization of the crops. But we should compare both the absolute as well as the comparative advantage. No matter what, even if the absolute advantage for a particular crop is there, we cannot say that that is the best crop which is actually suitable for that particular area, because even if it is actually having lesser absolute advantage in a region like region C, if it is cultivated here, it will be fetching you more revenue rather than where in an area, means compared to an area where actually it is actually having an absolute advantage. That is the basic idea of principle of absolute advantage and comparative advantage. Coming to the final principle, that is time comparison principle. So time comparison principle is simply nothing but the idea of time value of money. So what is time value of money? As as I always quote, like our parents used to tell, like the maybe the 2000 rupees or 5000 rupees in our 90s or 80s was actually equivalent to almost like 5 lakhs or 50 lakhs of today, right? So what was it? It's based on the money value, right? So therefore the time value of money is actually changing. A rupee tomorrow is much lesser value than that of today. That a money that you are having right now is actually having the best ever possible value today, not tomorrow. The same amount of money is getting depreciated over the period of time. That is basically the time value of money, right? And we already know that the agriculture is actually a time consuming business. Whatever it is, a business entrepreneurship is actually a time consuming process. It's not like if you are seeing like, okay, it is actually profitable, maybe the amount of money which actually generated will be over the period of time, right? So therefore by the time period, maybe many of the things will be happening. The general price level is continuously increasing, the inflationary tendency will be creeping up, maybe some wars or aggression will be happening, right? All the things will be happening, right? So therefore, since this time period is actually changing the time value of the money, we should be always thinking about like how much money I have to invest to generate a proper like this much value of money in the future, or maybe in order to generate that much money in the future, how much I should invest today. Such kind of calculation should be there, which accounts the value of time value of the money. That is none other than the uh, time comparison principle. So it used to examine the profitability of the farm investment over the period of time. So here we will be applying two major concepts. First one is compounding and second one is discounting. So compounding is none other than like you would have studied regarding calculating the simple interest as well as compound interest while you are doing your your schooling, right? So what is actually your compound interest? Compound interest is none other than if I am investing maybe 10,000 rupees today, after this much period of time, maybe after 10 years, how much you are getting, right? This is none other than the compound interesting, right? This is actually your compounding. So what is actually compounding? I have a present value and I want to understand how much in the future I am getting. In the future, from this present value, how much I am getting in the future. That is basically compounding. Compounding is actually the future value of the present sum. Future value of the, yes, future value of the present sum. So that is the basic idea. Rather than going to all the equations and all, you should basically conceptually understand. Sorry. So what is actually the future value? What is the future value of the present sum? That is the basic idea of compounding. Then similarly, we have something called discounting. So what is discounting? Compounding is none other than what for actually we are compounding is used. If I am investing maybe 1 lakh rupee today in my farm, after 5 years, how much returns I am getting back? That is basically compounding. What is discounting? Discounting is actually the basic opposite of the idea of compounding. Discounting is none other than present value of the future sum. Here actually what happens is like in the future, this is actually future. So in the future, I am expecting that I should generate a net profit of 5 lakh rupees. This is actually in the future. I am just expecting that in 2030, I should generate a 5 lakh rupee profit. So for that, for today, this is actually the present, right? So today, how much I should invest? So I am just calculating it back. This is none other than your discounting. So discounting is none other than present value of the future sum. Present value of the future sum. Calculating it back. I have decided, it's like targeting AIR first rank in the examination, and you are calculating back like how much I should prepare today, how many questions I should work out, how many lectures I have to see, where actually I have to give more time. That's none other than your discounting. Okay. assessing the basic marks that you are getting your mock test and comparing it with your future rank, that is nothing but your compounding. That is basically the difference between compounding as well as discounting. So this is basically the time comparison principle. So we have completed the farm management principles right now. So these are only the conceptual things. Rest everything is actually coming some kind of theoretical framework. You have to, these are factual information. So therefore I will be just going a little faster. And if you are having some doubts, you can keep in the chat box, because like everything is actually just factual information. So basic ideas only I will be telling. So what is farm inventory? Farm inventory is none other than, if I own a farm at a particular point, what are all the things I have? If you are sitting in your class, hostel room, and if you are seeing this lecture, just look around you and just assess like what are all the things that you have already with you. You will be having a coat, you will be having a table, you will be having a chair, you will be having a phone, you will be having an earphone, whatever it is. All the things, the valued at a particular point of time that you are already having, that is none other than your inventory. So in the farm, it is considered as farm inventory. Okay, value list of all the physical property of a business along with its monetary value will be at a particular point of time is known as farm inventory. And why actually we are taking the farm inventory? See, you will be, imagine that like maybe you would be in fourth year, right? Compare the number of books that you had, maybe the handwritten notes or maybe the total jar of notes as well as the textbooks that you had in your third year with respect to this year. Obviously it would have been increased, right? How it has increased? It's basically you chose to prepare more. That's why actually it is increasing, or else it will be the same. That, so therefore seeing it by yourself, you can understand that okay, last year I was not this serious, but this year I am a little more serious. That's why actually even the handwritten notes, maybe the questions, or maybe the uh, notes or materials that I possess from the previous year is actually having increased, which is actually gives you some confidence, right? That is basically here applies in the farm management. So comparing the farm inventory with respect to the previous years to current year, we can see that whether actually our farm is actually going to in a grow having a growth, or maybe retarding back, right? That is the basic idea of this farm inventory. So farm inventory basically taken at 2 points, that is from the beginning of the agricultural year as well as the end of the agricultural year, beginning as well as the end of the agricultural year. And the difference will be at this 2 point will be indicating the changes in the inventory, like how actually it has contributed to the farm. Okay, then how actually this farm inventory, like as I have already told it, when we are taking the inventory, we are having a list and we should find out the value of all these items, which is actually not that easy, right? So therefore we should be having some different techniques. So this method of valuation includes net selling price, costless depreciation, market price method, cost method, replacement costless depreciation method, and income capitalization method. So this will be helping you to understand what for it is used, sorry, when it is used, and the examples for it. Okay, so the first one is net selling price. Even in our master course batch also, I just want you not to by heart this thing, rather than just understand from the terminology itself. Net selling price, net selling price, right? So I have something, I am selling it, how much net price I am getting for that particular product. So as a farm manager, what I will be selling, something which is actually produced in the farm, right? So to value that which is actually primarily meant for the sale from the farm, that will be using this net selling price method. Okay, which is actually created in the farm and it is meant for marketed, for that we will be using net selling price method. All the farm products for sale, all the livestock products for sale, we will be using the net selling price method. So just rather than by hearting it, understand the concept and you will be facing your examination very easily, or else it will be like you will be, see, you will be having a cool of time like almost 1 hour after your this frisking procedure and all, right? Most of them will be sleeping because you will be already tired. And at that point of time, I am assuring you that the things that you are not comfortable in the subject, that will be always coming to your mind. Okay, I have not studied it, I didn't revise it, I wanted to revise it yesterday but I totally forgot about like looking through it. So rather than just simply by hearting it, just understand all these concepts. Okay, second one, costless depreciation method. So here something cost is there as well as some depreciation part is there. Depreciation will be seeing, but still you already will be having an idea of depreciation. It's none other than the value of wear and tear, right? So costless depreciation method, for what actually the depreciation is actually happens, it's almost like kind of machineries or stuffs, right? So therefore cost what was actually the cost for purchase, and deducting the depreciation, what are all the things that we will be using in the farm. That is none other than the cases of working assets, right? For the case of working assets, it can be machineries, it can be buildings constructed recently, it can be dairy cattle, it can be carts. So all these things we purchased it for some money, and there can be wear and tear. For such kind of things, you will be using the costless depreciation method. Next one, market price method. Market price method. So market price method is actually for purchased farm supplies, because when actually we will be primarily checking the market prices when we are going and purchasing something. Obviously it will be associated with some price, so we'll be just checking like, okay, whether it is actually profitable, or whether there actually it is having lesser price. That is market price. So market price is connected with the purchased sale. Don't confuse it with the net selling price. Selling price means like primarily for selling. This is actually primarily which is actually purchased or brought from the market. Then cost method. What is cost method? For some of the things, we should, rather than valuing regarding the market prices and all, we should check how much cost incurred for producing that much things. The cost of cultivation, the cost of production, all these things will be coming here, right? So to estimate the current value of the farm produced inputs, something which is actually being produced in the farm, rather than valuing it with the market, we should understand how much cost is actually generating for producing such kind of for example the seeds, for example the farmyard manure, all the things we will be considering this cost method. And replacement costless depreciation method, for what actually we should replace something, because of the wear and tear, something has to be replaced. For example, some old buildings are there in our campuses, right? So what will be the value of it? That is the replacement costless depreciation method. So here actually it is estimated to value the very old buildings, very old buildings. Then finally the income capitalization method. Income capitalization method means like for those assets which is actually yielding you income over a period of time. For example, land. Valuing your land is actually not that easy, because like land is actually being fixed and it is actually giving you revenue over and over the period of time. So therefore for such kind of land, such kind of assets, you will be using the income capitalization method. So this is how actually you have to connect your methods with respect to where it is actually or when it is actually properly used. So these are the different methods of valuation in the case of farm inventory. Then coming to the depreciation. Depreciation, as we have already told, it is none other than the basic idea of wear and tear. The phone that you have used when you have purchased it, you would have uh, brought it for maybe 15,000 rupees, but if you are selling it, you will be getting maybe 3,000 rupees. Why? Because you have used it, it has worn off already. Maybe it would have fall down, it would have been used like anything. So therefore too much wear and tear would have happened. Such kind of uh, loss of value due to continuous usage is known as depreciation, right? So therefore every assets will be depreciated if when we are using it continuously, especially in the case of fixed resources. So how we will calculate the depreciation? For calculating the depreciation, we need some basic ideas. First one is uh, original cost of the asset. So what is original cost of the asset? It is none other than the purchase price. For example, I have a tractor. That is the example that I am taking. So what was the price of the tractor when I was purchasing? That is the original cost. Okay. Second one, what is its useful life? To what years? Like how many years I can use it? For example, I am buying a scooty right now. So maybe like 3 lakh rupee or maybe 1.5 lakh rupee was actually the purchase price. That is the original cost. What is the useful life? Or for almost every vehicles, it is actually having a period of usage, right? Like maybe 15 years. After 15 years, you are not supposed to use it. Maybe you would be using it, but you are not supposed to use it, because its time period has the usage time period has used up, it has worn off, and even if you are using, means the pollution, the emissions will be very more. So therefore it has to be terminated. So that is your useful life. And what is the junk value? Junk value means after the useful life. After useful life, what is actually meant for the, what is actually the final fate for the particular asset? It has to be scrapped, right? So that's how at that point of time, when you are giving this to some scrap people, what money that you are getting as scrap value, that is none other than your junk value. So that's therefore junk value is also known as scrap value. So for understanding this depreciation, we should know the original cost, we should know the useful life, and we should know the junk value, like how much scrap value that we are getting. So junk value is also known as scrap value. Also it is known as salvage value. Salvage value. Okay, salvage value. So useful life, how many years that you will be using it. So we have almost three methods of computation for depreciation. First one is straight line method. Straight line method is actually the easiest method to calculate the depreciation. When it comes to diminishing balance method, then sum of the years digit method, and annual revaluation method. So all these things, different calculations are different types of calculations are involved in all these types of calculations of depreciation. All these things will be calculating the depreciation in different ways. Okay, so rather than going to understand the calculations, for at this point of time when the exam approaches, you should be understanding like what kind of level of depreciation that they are using. In the case of straight line method, you can see that it will be using a constant rate of depreciation over the period of time. Constant rate of depreciation, it is assumes, this method assumes that the asset is actually being used in a continuous way, in a constant rate. Like we cannot say that okay, this much time I have used, this much time it was just stored, this much time again I may use. No, it's not like that. We are assuming that the constant rate of depreciation, the value is actually progressively decreasing, which is actually not the correct case, but we are assuming it for the easiest calculation, because trying out or finding out the value of something which is actually getting wear and tear is actually not that easy. That's why actually we are having different methods. Okay, so therefore in the straight line method, you are assuming that the asset is being used constantly and the rate of depreciation is also same in every years. In over the period of time, the rate of depreciation is same. But when you are going to diminishing balance method or sum of the years digit method, it is actually assuming that variable depreciation, the depreciation is actually varied. Okay, so what do you really think? Like as you can always see with respect to some of the working assets that you are using right now. For example, it can be phone, it can maybe the earbuds, it can be maybe a Bluetooth speaker, or it can be a laptop. Once we buy it, in the initial years the depreciation will be much higher. You can notice it, it will be used up very much in the initial years, because like you will be using it like anything as it is fresh. So therefore the rate of depreciation will be much higher in the initial years. But as the years proceeds, the rate of depreciation, because like it's almost like worn off, after a point of wearing off, it will not be having much depreciation afterwards, like it will be almost the same. So therefore the rate of depreciation will be high when we are purchasing it, and as the time proceeds the rate of depreciation is lesser. And that is what actually assumed in the diminishing balance method and sum of the years digit method. And finally the annual revaluation method, this is actually for the farm purpose. This annual revaluation method is actually used for majorly livestock. So in the case of livestock is actually an asset for which actually you can see the idea of appreciation also. For example, for a cattle, for the first after the first parturition, if you are checking the milk amount, it will be maybe 5 liters or 6 liters. After the second parturition, after the second baby cow, you will be finding out the milk has increased. Milk of the cattle will be increased. After maybe the three parturitions, like it will be again increased. So initially the output will be increasing first in the case of cattle, and it will be reaches a maximum, and then after this only it will be reducing. After a particular point only it will be reduced, right? So therefore while you are taking the value or valuing the assets in your farm, cattle is also another asset or livestock is also another asset. So therefore when we are taking the inventory and all, you can see that at the initial point there will be an increase in the value, that is called an appreciation. After that it will be depreciation, right? So for such kind of assets where actually the value is actually changing over the period of time, such kind for example livestock, will be using the annual reevaluation method, because like the value in the beginning to the end, if we are checking, means like whether we can find out whether the value has been increased, appreciated or depreciated. For such kind of assets we will be using the annual reevaluation method. As of now, none of the questions were asked from a mathematical part from these areas, so we are expecting that it will not be asked in the examination. Even if they are asked also, they'll be just using the straight line method. You can just refer it to the Subbardi textbook, it will be very easy. It's none other than original cost minus junk value divided by the total number of useful life or the years will be giving you the rate of depreciation, and what is the actual value into the rate of depreciation will be giving the particular amount of depreciation that happened in a particular year. That is the basic idea of the straight line method. This as I have already told In the diminishing balance as well as the sum of years digit method, you can see the variable use of depreciation. So here actually it is in the straight line, assumption of constant use of the asset over the period of time, constant use of asset over the period of time. uh, and therefore, because of its simplicity, it is actually the most popular and widely accepted method because of its simplicity. That is a straight line method. Then there is diminishing balance method. So here this assumes varying rates of use of the asset year after year. That is the basic idea that you have to remember here. Then again, in the sum of the years digit method, here also it assumes the various rates of use of the asset. That is the basic idea that you have to remember here. Then annual revaluation method, the asset is getting reevaluated always. So which asset it is usually appreciates? I have already given the answer for you in the live. So therefore, difference in the value of the asset will be indicating whether the asset has depreciated or appreciated. So that's how actually we are using the annual reevaluation method. So then comes to basic ideas of farm planning and farm budgeting. You will be already knowing it. Farm planning is none other than the advanced production, the production process which has to be taken place in the farm is drawn in advance. That is basically the farm planning. Everything should be done in a planned way. So therefore, the execution will be easy. The challenges that we are going to face, we can predict before and we can do the necessary things. That's why actually we are doing the farm plan, right? So this farm plan, different types of farm plans are there. Simple farm plan is there, complete farm plan or whole farm plan will be there. You would have been done this farm plan in your Rave program, right? So here actually in the simple farm plan, we are just making some minor modifications in a particular farm. For example, we as technicals are or we can say as professionals, when we are going to a farm, you are supposed to know like actually where actually the weak point and where actually the strong point. If there are some weak points or where some resources are utilized very in as I say wasteful expenditure, you should be telling like, okay, this should be uh, based on this landscape and based on your farm situation. If you are replacing this particular enterprise with respect to one of the other enterprise, then it would be giving you more profit. Your resources will be used very much efficiently. The output will be fetching you more price, and the byproducts you can use it for another enterprises which is complementary in nature. Such kind of things you can suggest. That is none other than your simple farm planning. Complete farm planning means like you are trying out to just set up the entire farm all together as a new farm. Okay, you are trying to change everything in the farm in a scientific systematic manner. That is none other than your complete or whole farm plan. So what is farm budgeting? When we are doing the farm plan, there is something, plan is actually something like we are suggesting all the measures that should be taken, but for all the measures that we are going to take, there is some additional expenditure as well as some additional returns that we are getting, right? When I am substituting one product with respect to another product, as we have seen in the case of principle of product substitution, there is some added product, there is some added returns as well as there is some sacrificed returns. We assessed that the added return should be always lesser than that of sacrificed returns. When I am using some, what I call for it, when I am using some inefficient resources, I am asking them to substitute that inefficient resource with respect to some efficient resource. When I am adding an efficient resource, what will be happening? It's like maybe conventional seeds with respect to high yielding varieties. So when I am substituting with respect to high yielding varieties, there will be an added cost. When I am substituting the conventional varieties, there will be some reduction in the cost. Always the reduction in the cost should be greater than the case of added cost. So therefore only we can continue. So here is how actually we are applying the ideas of principles of farm management in the case of farm budgeting. So as I have already told, along with all the changes that we are suggesting, there is actually something called some added returns, added cost, reduced returns, reduced cost, all the things. So we have to change, we have to check whether actually it is profitable or not. As economists, we are supposed to give them like how much quantitatively, mathematically, in terms of monetary terms, like how much actually you are getting additional, how much you are sacrificing, what actually what changes it will be making to your total viability of the farm. That all the things will be coming. So we are trying to giving a monetary perspective to the farm plan, and that is none other than the farm budgeting. So farm budgeting, as we defined above, the farm plan is program of total farm activity. Farm budgeting is actually expression of farm plan in the monetary terms. Expression of farm plans in the monetary terms will be giving you the farm budgeting. So here farm budgeting is also three types. First one is enterprise budget, second one is partial budget, and third one is complete budget. What is enterprise budget? A single enterprise is actually changed. As I have already told, maybe the farmer would be using a conventional variety, and I am suggesting that rather than using a conventional variety, go for a high yielding variety. So just a single enterprise is actually changed, rest everything is same. That is none other than your enterprise budget. Then what is partial budgeting? Partial budgeting means like we are doing some minor modifications, like okay, rather than going for enterprises, I am telling that use some mulching for every crops, use some land reclamation program for everything, or something like that. Then what is complete budget? It's none other than the complete farm plan. You're just like trying to systematically change everything in the farm, and the monetary terminology is none other than your complete budget. So enterprise budget, partial budget, and complete budget. Then there are some efficiency measures that we are using in to assess, like regarding the profitability, or maybe the sustainability or viability of a particular farm. So it having some physical efficiency measures as well as financial efficiency measures. In both physical and financial efficiency measures, we have some aggregate measures as well as some ratio measures. So in the physical efficiency measures, the aggregate measures includes like how much total land area we have, how much number of livestock we have, how much total farm yield we have. For example, I'll be giving an example, like okay, so there are two farms which is actually there in a flood prone area. Two farms which is actually having a of equal land, okay, 5 acres of land for two farmers which is in a flood prone area. And one of the farmer is actually having a good number of livestock, and the second farmer is actually not having that much good number of livestock. So farmer A is actually having more livestock, farmer A is having lesser livestock. So what happens when the flood comes? Flood is actually an uncertain event, right? It is actually a risk, or we can say it is an uncertainty, because it is actually unexpected in. So therefore, when the flood comes, entire crop will be lost. But farmer A will be having much higher resistance to some unforeseen circumstances. Why? Because livestock is actually an income buffer to the particular farmer, because the flood cannot destruct the livestock like the same way that it is actually destructing the crops, right? So therefore that actually gives you the viability of the farm a little more. Such kind of measures are known as aggregate measures. Total farm area, total number of livestock, total farm yield, everything will be indicating how much physical efficiency whether the farmer is having. Then some ratio measures are there, like maybe yield per acre, crop yield index, cropping index, production efficiency. You would have studied cropping intensity. Then crop acreage per man, productive work equipment, all these things. There are some efficiency, like kind of ratios, like what we call for it, like as I have already told, like yield per acre. It's not none other than the if there are two farms, one farm both are actually cultivating rice, but one is actually a traditional cultivator, one is actually a progressive farmer who actually uses high yielding variety. And when you are checking the yield per acre, one farmer is actually having maybe 5 quintals per hectare, and the second one is actually having 10 quintals per hectare. It actually indirectly tells you the efficiency of the farmer, right? Such kind of things are coming under the ratio measures. Then we are more concerned regarding the financial efficiency measures, because more or less the questions will be asked from the financial efficiency measures. So financial efficiency measures, there are again aggregate measures and ratio measures. Aggregate measures include uh, gross income, gross profit, gross expenses, family labor income, net worth, net farm income. All these things will be like, we are just trying to compare the profit simply, or we are trying to compare the cost. The farmer which is actually having lesser cost means higher efficiency. The farmer who's having more profit means more efficiency. The farmer who's actually having higher net farm income means more efficiency. Such kind of things will be coming the aggregate. When it comes to the ratio measures, we have different measures such as gross output per gross input, fertilizer cost per acre, machinery and equipment cost per acre. All these things will be an efficiency measure. Along with that, we have some other measures called cost ratios, like operating cost ratio, fixed ratio, gross ratio. So all these things are actually giving you to compare between two farms, where actually which farm is actually having more, which farm is actually having more efficiency. So operating ratio, operating expenses on the farm divided by gross income. Fixed ratio, fixed cost in the farm divided by gross income. Gross ratio, total cost of the farm divided by gross income. So this is actually regarding total variable cost or operating cost per gross income. Here it is total fixed cost per gross income. This is the total cost per gross income. As this ratio, these are cost ratios. As these ratios are lesser, the farm will be more efficient. Similarly, we have some solvency ratios. Solvency ratio, basically you should understand the basic idea of liquidity as well as solvency. So liquidity is none other than the immediate, like how immediately the farm can be, what we call for it, like the entire enterprise can be liquidated. That is basically the liquidity. If I am, imagine that I am having a farm, and if I don't have any debts has to be paid, and I feel like I am just going to close down the farm, immediately if I can do that, that is means liquidity. Solvency means like in a long period of time, if we can close down the business, that is basically the solvency. So the immediate obligations are liquidity, long-term obligations are known as solvency. So these are the solvency ratios. First one is current ratio, then working ratio, net capital ratio, and debt equity ratio. These are the major ideas which usually the examiners will be giving more attention while they are setting up the question paper. So you have to give a little more attention here in this area. Okay, so current ratio means current assets divided by current liabilities. Working ratio means a little more long term range. It is current assets plus intermediate asset divided by current liabilities plus intermediate liabilities. Assets are nothing the farmer which actually owned by himself. Liabilities are something, the obligation that he have to pay to somebody else. That is liabilities. So therefore, something we have to, something we have to pay back. So more the value of current assets, more the liquidity. More the value of working ratio, more will be the liquidity. Net capital ratio, this is actually coming to almost like from here to here, it is actually from short term to long run. This is actually the immediate liquidity. This is actually intermediate liquidity. This is actually long term liquidity. Net capital ratio is actually total assets by total liabilities. This includes current assets, intermediate assets, all the long term assets, like including the land, right? Long term solvency, yes. Then finally the debt equity ratio. So what is debt equity ratio? This is actually the ulta, the total liabilities divided by owner's equity. Owner's equity, what is owner's equity? Owner's equity is none other than your total assets minus total liabilities. Total assets minus total liabilities is actually your net. For example, I have a my bank account balance is actually 10,000 rupees. Okay, I have 10,000 rupees in my account, but the actual money that I possess is 5,000 rupees, and 5,000 rupees is actually given from one of my friend. I have to pay it back. So even if I have 10,000 rupees in my bank, what is my owner's equity? It is simply 5,000 rupees, because my total assets is 10,000 rupees and my total liabilities is 5,000 rupees. Right? That's how actually our owner's equity is changing, and total liabilities the 5,000 rupees, right? So therefore, lesser the value of debt equity ratio, more will be the efficiency. So therefore, always remember that the current ratio, more the value, this is actually a positive value for the efficiency. More the value, more efficiency. Intermediate ratio, more value, more will the efficiency. Net equity, net capital ratio, more the value, more will be the efficiency. But in the case of debt equity ratio, it is actually having a negative value, or lesser value means more efficiency. That is actually the thing that you have to understand here. Then some income ratios, net income by number of acres, then capital per unit of gross income, capital per man, rate of capital turnover. This is also known as quick ratio. Sorry, this is not quick ratio. Capital turnover ratio, gross income of the farm divided by total value of the farm assets into 100. Then all the cost concepts, these are something that you have to basically repeatedly go through and understand multiple times. Like you have to simply just have to buy heart, I should say. So all the basic cost of cultivation includes under the cost A1, then cost A2, cost A1 plus rent paid for leased in land. Then the case of cost B1, cost B1 is cost A1 plus interest on fixed capital. Then cost B1 plus the rental value of owned land. All the things you have to just enlist, and you have to just by heart it as by yourself. Okay, just going through it only. Then cost C1, cost C and cost C2, it's very easy. Along with the cost B1 and cost B2, you should add the imputed value of family labor. So maybe the question will be asked in a simpler way, like what is the difference between cost B as well as cost C? It is none other than the imputed value family labor. That is the only thing that it is actually having a worth of asking in the case of examination. But you should be understanding from A1 to A2, A2 to B1, B1 to B2, Then B1 to C1, B2 to C2, what actually happens, what is the difference, whether it is interest on fixed capital or whether it is interest on working capital, whether it is rent paid for leased in land, whether it is rent paid for owned land. That is the basic idea that you have to understand here. Rest everything will be okay from this area. Then from the cost concepts, farm business income, gross income minus cost A1, family labor income, gross income minus cost B, net income, gross income minus cost C, and farm investment income, farm business income minus imputed value family labor. So you have to understand, sorry, you have to by heart this thing, because maybe they would be giving this in one part and this part, the equation in the second part, and match it. So you have to just by heart this. This is very important. Farm business income, family labor income, net income, and farm investment income. These are some of the income measures which is derived from the cost of cultivation. Then some basic ideas like types of farming and systems of farming. So in types of farming, we have specialized farming, diversified farming, mixed farming, dry farming, and ranching. So specialized farming means like a single enterprise will be contributing to more than 50% of the income of the particular particular farm. In diversified farming, more than one enterprise will be there, and at least a single enterprise will be contributing. Not a single enterprise will be contributing as much as a specialized farming. It should not contribute 50%. It should be less than 50%, and at least it should contribute maybe 10%, I guess. Then in mixed farming, again, crop will be there, livestock will be there, minimum 10% and up to 49% only a particular enterprise has to be contribute. Then dry farming, it is based on the rainfall availability, maybe like dry farming, dry land farming, and rainfed farming will be coming under the dry farming. And finally ranching, I think in the, yes, 10% dairy in mixed, yes. Then in ranching is actually like kind of like open grazing livestock rearing systems, which is actually mostly practiced in case of western country, Australian countries and all. So here in ranching, maybe in the last day, some of the questions, when some of the um, doubts were asked, like whether it is actually eligible for cultivation. No, mostly these pasture lands are actually not at all eligible for cultivation. So that because of maybe, I don't know the reasons, but it is actually not fit for cultivation. That's why actually it is used for pasturing the cattle. So therefore, always remember that the ranches or the lands which is actually used for ranching or livestock ranching or pasturing is actually not fit for cultivation. It is unfit for cultivation. That is a thing that you have to understand. Then there are some systems of farming which includes peasant farming or subsistence farming. Then there is cooperative farming, which includes cooperative better farming, joint farming, tenant farming, and collective farming based on the ownership and operationship. So therefore, if we are checking with the ownership and operationship, maybe the question will be like this: based on the ownership and operationship, you will be asked to pick up the which type of cooperative farming it is. So if it is cooperative better farming, it is individual and individual ownership and operationship. When it comes to joint farming, it is individual ownership and collective operationship. In the case of cooperative tenant farming, it is cooperative collective ownership and individual operationship. And finally, in the case of cooperative collective farming, it is collective ownership and collective operationship. This is how actually it is classified. This is basically the subsistence farming. Most of the people will be in the case of the small and marginal farmers are following the peasant farming only. Then some capitalistic farming, where actually uh, it is mostly a characteristic feature of maybe capitalist countries like UK and USA and all. Then there is collective farming, and finally state farming. State farming is actually entire farm plan is actually drawn up by the state, and they will be giving the resources. People have to just simply work upon the plan which is given by the state. So that is the basic idea of different systems of farming. Then as the exam approaches, I guess like you are already aware about the mock test bundles that we are providing, and it has been giving significant progress to many of our student community. And the more actually you are going through the questions, that is actually really mattering regarding the examinations. And this is actually choose this opportunity to assess your ideas and to get more what we call for it like more progress towards your examination. And it will be helping you to assess where actually your position and where actually you are feeling a little more weaker also. So go through the courses like test series that we are giving, and it is actually given under a reduced price. So there are two test series for PG examination. The basic agri test series as well as for the Shrestha batch exclusively. And finally, we will be having an additional course for the next batches, like the Shrestha batch, the target batch of 2027, and we have a foundation batch for 2028. So I know like many of the students who are already there attending the exam will be subscribed to our courses already. But if you really find our, like I'm just repeating it, if you really find our course as really helping your examination preparation journey, it's because of my confidence that I am telling that it will be obviously helping you. So just pass it down to your juniors also. It will be helping us, and it will be helping your juniors also to uh, grow our agricultural economics as well as extension community a little more bigger. And we should be having our agri tag wherever we are going for an MSc as well as PhD courses in ICAR universities. So that's it. Like I think we have almost covered all the uh, portions of agricultural economics. If you are having any doubts, I'll be here for a little more. We covered national income from macroeconomics. We covered national income from macroeconomics. So I went to read leftover now. Okay, it's almost like 20th of June. So I think you are left with maybe 2 weeks. I don't know who's actually asking the question, but I would suggest, like, if you have only covered national income concept, there are some more topics that which is actually having importance from the macroeconomics, maybe like from consumption theories. Just go through inflation, go through unemployment. But rather than just making all the concepts by yourself right now, if you can go through our marathon sessions, it will be helping you to complete the to get a basic idea. So just go through the marathon session, and max to max 1 more week you can make up the theory, but not don't waste too much time to make up the theory by yourself. That's why I'm asking you to go to the uh, marathon session and have a basic understanding, and after that you can do the PYQs as well as the MCQs which is related to the macroeconomics. To be really honest, national income is not only the basic idea from the macroeconomics, there are portions left with. But I'm not discouraging you. You should go through the marathon. Then you will be having a better understanding, and then work out maximum PYQs. So therefore, you will be understanding the basic ideas from the marathon itself. That is what I'm feeling. Because anyway, like I don't know regarding this other subjects, we have almost provided every content in a crisp way in our marathon. Nothing is left over. We are not at all skipping a single thing. There is nothing like exclusive to the subscribed batch or an unsubscribed student. Everything is given and everything is covered. So don't worry about it. It's regarding like how much you are thinking right now and how much you are applying these things to your question papers. So feel free to give the ideas or doubts in the group, so that we will be according to the time permits, like we will be giving to the marathon PDF for revision. Yeah, I'll talk with the technical team. Thank you, Shyamraj. Thank you. Drastically rising in recent years. Can we have a separate session for master course students, especially for numericals? Yeah, surely, definitely we will consider for it. I have to check out the PYQs to find out which are all the, like, anyway we can solve it out. I think even if the questions which are numericals which are drastically rising also, they are from the basic ideas from the for example, some production economics concept they'll be asking, like maybe calculating the MPP, TPP, APP, such kind of things will be there. Maybe from the microeconomics theory they'll be giving the demand as well as the supply equations, and find out some optimal profit maximizing point. Maybe some MC and MR kind of questions. Such kind of questions are all there. That are the only questions which are asked in the PYQs. Definitely we will be considering it. Anything else? Thanks for the suggestion. Obviously we will be taking care of it. Anything else? We are so happy about your responses in the chat box. Like, until and unless we don't have enough participation as well as the communication, like the class will be like kind of a radio talk. But I hope like we are having a good rapport in our sessions, and that is actually what encouraging us to continue these sessions. Well, thank you. This will be your final marathon, and obviously these suggestions. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Anyway, these suggestions are actually very much helpful for us, and these are encouraging us a lot, encouraging our platform also. So remember one more thing. If you're I am repeating it again, if you're really finding out our videos are really helpful for you people, just go back to your previous videos and just comment down like how actually it is helping you, which will be again helping your juniors batches also to understand about how actually the content quality would be. Because anyway, I know that the marathon session is actually exclusively for those people who have almost prepared. This is actually not a fundamental class, right? Like, even if we are trying to make it maximum to maximum the ground level, for some people who have already at least given a proper read for the subject, it will be really very much helpful. I know that properly. So therefore, those ones who are actually totally into, when maybe in a starting point, or who's actually thinking for preparing the examination, they would be finding it maybe a little weird, because like we are covering all the topics in a single go, and they'll be feeling like maybe it little difficult. So therefore, your explanations, or maybe the word of mouth publicity would be helping those students to understand how actually we are dealing with the students in the master batch. So that's why I'm asking you, please comment down in our application session in the Play Store, as well as the YouTube videos that we are providing, and that will be helping us to grow more, as well as to give more quality content. And thanks for the encouragement and support from the student community, without which we cannot survive here. It's basically because of this happiness that you are sharing with us as the driving force that actually uh, letting us continuing this venture. Thank you, thank you, thanks a lot. And if something else is required, feel free to comment down, and we'll see in the next sessions. So thank you. Bye bye. Good night.
Ajay, how's the class?